Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Tim Foley from Core Income. We're going to talk about some planning strategies for your older clients using life insurance. Dan and I founded Core Income 13 years ago. We've really put a major focus on building our life insurance expertise over the last 8 to 9 years, and excited to share some thoughts and ideas with you here. One of our beliefs is that life insurance is becoming a little less used in the financial planning community. Many of you on this webinar probably came from a life insurance background, especially as it relates to older clients, whether that be underwriting, or just the thought that maybe life insurance for older clients is only for the ultra high net worth. So we're going to be walking through three different strategies today, and really three ideas that we hope to help you identify some of your clients that could use some of these planning strategies. Really, we look at life insurance as a tool to help solve problems or help solve issues that some clients might be facing financially. So again, I'm Tim Foley. Get my slides working here. I'm head of sales here at Core Income. Most of my focus has been in life insurance over the past 3 to 4 years. So look forward to walking you through all these strategies. So here's really what we're going to be going through and covering today. First, estate liquidity and tax planning. So I think this is what most think of when they think of life insurance with older clients is estate or liquidity planning. Really, this is something more geared towards your high net worth, or especially towards your ultra high net worth clients. I think in the past, this has been the primary focus on life insurance for older clients. So the second thing we're going to cover is charitable giving. We've seen more and more of this, and a lot of this is middle America. This is individuals who have a passion to support charities. They may or may not have large assets, but they've got a desire to make an impact beyond themselves. And then the third is long-term care. Long-term care has been an interesting industry. I'm sure many of you on this call have sold policies that have experienced rising premiums. The industry has completely shifted over the past decade and a half or so to products that provide guaranteed solutions, but also provide opportunity for dual purpose, whether that be legacy or helping to cover long-term care. Last thing we'll hit on is underwriting, or how Core helps. So for individuals above 60, oftentimes, either for the advisor or for the client, the biggest fear is, am I healthy enough to purchase life insurance? And I will tell you, in most cases, the answer is yes. Obviously, there are conditions that are uninsurable, but for individuals that are above age 60, they just need to be healthy as compared to other 60 to 70-year-olds. So we'll dive into a little bit of that as well. The problem we see, and I kind of hit on a couple of these things, is oftentimes older clients are just not considered for life insurance. Again, outside of the mega wealthy, the estate planning play, most of those clients don't think they're healthy enough. So generally, I think introducing the topic cannot be done via just introducing it as life insurance. Again, I think it's a planning strategy that's going to give you an opportunity to talk about how you can help solve problems for a client or help create a greater future for that client or their beneficiaries. Many advisors we work with are kind of unaware of the different situations that life insurance may be effective. And again, clients at the advanced ages just tend to believe that life insurance is too expensive. So we're going to kind of go through and dispel some of those myths. The three topics, again: reduce estate taxes, protect their family, or give generously or pass something on to the next generation. So the first topic here, creating liquidity for estate taxes or estate equalization. I think that the topic of estate planning oftentimes gets overly complicated. I hear it all the time. Client has some wealth built up. We begin to talk about life insurance. The number one objective when talking with a wealthy client about life insurance is, I don't need it. I've got plenty of cash to pass on to the next generation. So I think this is a topic where the simpler you can keep things, the easier it is to introduce to the client the tools that will help them achieve their goals. So we're going to introduce a couple here, Tom and Mary Jones. They are a 70-year-old couple living in Minnesota with 4 kids. 4 kids don't live in Minnesota anymore. one of the 4 kids does live in Minnesota because, as you'll see in our scenario here, this couple owns a farm. And the farm has accumulated over time. It's been passed down through generations. Farm's now worth $15 million and generates quite a bit of cash flow annually. You can really think of this farm as any family business. It could be a family business that's been passed down from generation to generation. It could be a family business that was created by the parents that's become successful over the next 10 to 15 years. Really, any business that someone is looking to pass on to their family or pass on to the next generation could potentially produce problems if the family's primary assets are tied up in that business. So in this case, the family has plenty of cash flow. They don't necessarily have a ton of assets outside of the business. So we use Minnesota as the example here. Many people don't know we're about the 3rd highest tax state in the nation here in Minnesota. But as you can see, there's several states that on top of federal estate taxes have either an estate tax or an inheritance tax. So difference between the two: an estate tax is paid by the estate. An inheritance tax is paid by the individuals who inherit the money. As you can see, we've got one state that has both estate taxes and inheritance taxes. I put this map up there because I do believe if you look at your clients in each of those individual states, what you're going to find is a much, much lower level that will be affected by estate taxes. So we'll get into federal exemptions next. But as an example, in Minnesota, for individuals that are worth $3 million or more per year per person, so for a couple, that could be a total of a $6 million exemption, we are going to have estate taxes due. So generally, if the clients just had a pile of assets, let's say they had $15 million in a brokerage account, that might not be much of an issue because you've got the liquidity to pay the estate taxes and settle the estate. As you can see in the situation we're talking about here, the money tied up in a family business may not have the liquidity. And again, state by state, you might be facing much, much lower levels than the federal inheritance tax. So this is just an example. I think everybody on here has probably read articles or they've been on another webinar talking about the sunsetting federal estate tax exemption. So you can see that's represented here. You've got this major cliff. This is a huge unknown. So what we do know is prior to 2018, the federal estate tax exemption was below 6 million. So it was a steadily rising number. 2018, we passed a bill that introduced a much, much higher level of estate tax exemption. That was designed to run through 2025, so end of this year. Who knows what will happen at the end of this year? We may see further legislation. We may see continued, rising in the exemption, or we may see it sunset. We may not be able to get the legislation through, in which case we would shrink back to this $6 million, $7 million level inflated over time from back in 2017. The big piece I kind of talked through here is what we don't know for your clients that are in their 60s and 70s. They may have 10, 15, 20 years to live. What we don't know is what these numbers will do over the course of the next 15 to 20 years. We may pass legislation that increases the estate tax or keeps the current exemptions in place. And then you may have an administration down the road that changes. So I think the important key opportunity here is to talk to your clients about what type of issue the estate tax may cause and to plan for those situations and plan for what might be a changing situation down the road. So here's really the issue. So if we look at our couple here, Tom and Mary Jones, they live in Minnesota. They own the farm in Minnesota. So if they were to pass today, Tom and Mary would owe $1.17 million, or their estate would owe $1.17 million to the state of Minnesota, and potentially $2 million to the federal estate tax, assuming the exemptions come back down. So the questions become here, how do those estate taxes get paid? Again, oftentimes small business owners have the majority of their assets tied up in that small business. So how does the $3.17 million get paid? In this case, the question becomes, will they have to sell the farm? Oftentimes, as you can see on the right, one child is the person that wants to keep the farm. We see this situation a lot. There's 3 children that have maybe moved off. They're doing something else. You've got one child that wants to keep the farm, but we have this problem hanging over their heads of this $3.17 million in estate taxes due both to the state and the Fed. So the question becomes, what were to happen if they were to pass on today? The estate tax is due. They need to find a way to pay that estate tax. Unfortunately, outside of doing some planning in advance, really the only opportunity would be to sell a piece of the farmland. So oftentimes this is where farms move from traditionally passed on through families to being sold, or at least a portion of the farm being sold to corporations or other families, or really leaving the family. So this is what we want to help plan for. This is the simple conversation I think you can have with clients who own a small business. Instead of starting with estate planning or starting with an ILET, it's starting with the question of, hey, what do you want this business or this farm to go on and do for the next generation? I like to then talk a little bit about how we can set up an ILET, or in any other terms, set up an outside of the estate account that is designed to pay your estate taxes. One of the things many don't talk about, and this hits to the belief that life insurance is just too expensive, is the premiums of life insurance in relation to the overall estate. So again, in this case, we have an estate of 15 million. So just as a simple example, if we purchase a second to die life insurance policy on Tom and Mary Jones for 3.17 million, that will cost 52,000 per year of premium. You know, 52,000 may seem expensive because it's 52,000 as an annual premium, but when you relate the 52,000 back to the actual cost of their estate, or the actual total of their estate, that is a 0.35% of their total estate paid per year. You know, so again, when you think about fees paid in the investing world, 0.35% can help them establish an outside ILET that would absolutely pay the estate tax bill to both Fed and state, and create that opportunity to the family to then go and do what they want with the farm upon the parents' passing. Again, I think it's a simple conversation to talk to clients about how are we going to handle these estate taxes, and what percentage of your overall estate would you need to pay in order to handle the estate taxes. The second piece here, that's estate liquidity, right? So we need liquidity in order to pay these taxes, liquidity that's maybe non-existent in the farm. The second piece here is estate equalization. So if we think about this problem of, we've got 4 kids. Tom and Mary are proud of all 4 of their kids. They want each of the 4 kids to be able to inherit what they've built over the years, but you've got one kid that wants to actually receive and work the farm. So really, in order to do that, all we would need to do is increase the premium payment about 5-fold to produce a $15 million death benefit. So again, let's relate this back as a percentage of the estate to the total estate. The premium payment is now about 1.75% of their total estate. That would then provide both liquidity for the estate taxes, but also liquidity for the other 3 heirs to leave the child that wants to keep the farm in the family in control of the farm. So overall, just as an overview of estate planning, estate liquidity, estate equalization, what we're hoping you're able to do is kind of look through your clients, look at the clients that are in the states with an estate tax, and think about who has something as far as a business or something e-liquid they want to pass on to the next generation. You know, there's all kinds of planning when it comes to an ILET or a SLAT or trust that we can help you dive into here at CORE. We've got experts here that can help you get to the lowest level detail. But the key is, make sure to be keeping an eye out in your book of business, in your conversations with your clients, for people that might need estate liquidity to pay estate taxes, or for any other reason, or estate equalization. So strategy two, again, strategy one, I think is more involved for individuals that are in that high net worth category, maybe 3, 4, 5 million or above. Strategy two is about supporting philanthropic causes. Now, this could be individuals who are high net worth, or as in this example, this could be that client that you've had for years that maybe has some smaller accounts with you. We're going to name her Ann in this situation. Ann is a widower. Her husband's passed on. She largely lives on Social Security and multiple pensions. So she's got a teacher's pension. She's got her husband's pension after he passed on. Really, her kids have moved away, and Ann spends a lot of time with her local church. Again, we're using a church as the example here. This could be any sort of charity, any sort of 501 non-C3. I think a lot of times this is something that we see from people in retirement as they try to start to dedicate themselves to a different cause. So Ann donates $400 a week to her church. This is her husband's pension. She's got plenty of income from her Social Security and from her own pension. So she feels good being a donor to the church to the tune of $400 a week. But in this case, her church, it's a smaller church. They have renovations coming up, or they may have any sort of financial issue they're facing, and really wants to help towards that. Her $400 a week are going towards covering costs or covering, weekly overhead, but she wants to make a big impact on the church. Her ongoing support currently is very valuable to them. She volunteers and supports the church. She spends a lot of time there. The reason these two comments are important is one of the things that gets involved when it comes to charitable planning is underwriting. So we need to prove that there's an insurable interest between the charity and Ann. So this is something that comes up often after we discussed charitable planning. What we need to prove is that there was some level of ongoing support. And again, these are details that we can get into on an individual one-on-one call. We've got people here that work on charitable cases that can really help you present that case. But the key is it must be something where she has continuously or already been donating to the organization in order to make the insurable interest work there. So the strategy, currently Ann's donating the $400 per week to her church. We got a little wonkiness I see here, but planned giving. So this could be anything from a large organization to a small organization. Most large charities have a planned giving department that can work with you and your client. Smaller organizations like the church here, you may have to serve as the planned giving committee. You may need to go in and talk to the person on the financing committee. Again, these are things that Core Income can help you with. But what we're going to do is we're going to have the church as an organization purchase a guaranteed UL policy on Ann's life. Ann will continue to make the $400 donations to the church that are now converted to try to pay the premiums on the GUL policy that the church owns on Ann, effectively giving the church $1 million on her passing. So what we've done here is we've taken a small incremental donation and we've created something that's going to make a huge impact. And, this is a problem Ann probably never believed she could help the church solve. What I think is so important about all of this is over here on the far right. And I think oftentimes this is sort of what pushes people to think about strategies like this is in these cases, Ann becomes very, very important to the church. They can, create a memorial garden. They might have a picture of her. But what they're doing is they're creating a legacy for Ann. And in this example, and many examples we talk about, what's so important to her is that her family, who maybe comes and attends church all as a whole once or twice a year, maybe it's Christmas and Easter, that is her time where she says, hey, I love having my family together. I love having them support something that's so near and dear to my heart, and really creating this opportunity for them to gather after she's gone and remember their mother's legacy. So I think oftentimes this is really what's important to people who are into charitable giving, is creating a legacy where it's an opportunity for their family to come back and spend time and understand everything that was important to them and everything that they did. The third here, protecting families from future care expenses. So I'm sure everybody here, again, has heard a lot about the cost of long-term care. These tend to be the types of clients that don't necessarily think about long-term care unless they're experiencing an issue in their family. So in this case, we've got Maria and Jesse. Both are 71 years old. We've got $2 million in retirement assets. They've got a great retirement plan. They've met with someone like you. So based on both of their Social Securities, small nest egg withdrawals, they are projecting that they can live a great retirement, increase their withdrawals for inflation, and still pass $2 million on to their children. That's their total desire. So as their plan works currently, they're very happy with it. The problem is Maria is starting to see her mother, who's 92 years old. She spent 5 years in memory care and really seeing the depletion of those savings. I think most of you out there are aware this is often when the client comes to you to begin to talk about long-term care, is when they're seeing things that are happening with their parents. She's worried the same thing could happen to them. So they've got this perfect retirement plan put together, but there is this one final risk that she's seeing happen just in the generation before her. So generally, the first conversation is about long-term care insurance. This is kind of the thought is, hey, long-term care insurance can cover these things. At their age, a traditional long-term care policy would cost them about $25,000 a year. So $25,000 a year over the course of the next 20 years, that's a policy for each of them that would generally cover the total cost of savings. What this means to their overall retirement is, hey, if care is needed, this was a smart investment. This is going to pay the 500 grand. But if care isn't needed, they're also robbing the next generation of 500 grand. So we sort of have this cost benefit analysis. The other piece that's not talked about here with traditional long-term care is these premiums can, of course, rise every year. So what we've seen recently is letters from companies that issued policies 10, 15, 16 years ago offering 20, 30, 40, 50% increases, or the client must take a reduction in benefit. So what happens is this cost really becomes an unknown. So again, in this scenario, I think if you consider their goal, retirement, happy retirement, pass the children $2 million, we're sort of guaranteeing a loss here. Whether they pay the premium and don't use the care, they're losing about $500,000 in inheritance. If they pay the premium and do use the care, they're still losing the same $500,000 in inheritance. So they go to talk to their financial advisor, a smart financial advisor like you that works with Core Income. And we're looking at a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. For those of you that watch our content, you've seen that we are also big fans of hybrid long-term care. These are a different type of policy where you're buying a small death benefit and you're buying a much, much larger long-term care pool. In this case, because of their desire to pass on the assets to the next generation, we are looking at a simple guaranteed life insurance policy for $500,000 on each with a long-term care rider. So there's many, many different companies out there. There's different types of riders with different language. That is what we are here to help with at Core Income. We're here to help find your specific client the absolute best policy. So again, we can dive into that detail on any given case. But generally, what they are purchasing here is a $500,000 death benefit on Jesse and a $500,000 death benefit on Maria. So we can see the premium for Jesse is $19,000 per year. This is guaranteed. The premium cannot increase. The death benefit cannot decrease. For Maria, premium of $17,400 a year. Again, same thing, cannot increase, cannot decrease. So we're looking at about a total of $36,000, slightly more expensive than the traditional long-term care scenario. But there's a huge difference here. We know for a fact someone will be receiving the $500,000 from each of them. So with traditional long-term care, you may or may not receive benefit that will be paid to the long-term care provider. In this case, we know between the two policies, we are creating an additional $1 million that will be paid out either tax-free to provide for their care or tax-free to the estate, tax-free to their children. So when we look at the scenarios here, and again, we're going really high level here, we can help you plug this into your financial planning software. But I think sometimes the best way to have this conversation with clients is more on a yellow pad and more high level before you dive into the minutia. So in this case, current scenario, no action taken. We love this scenario. No long-term care needed. We're going to take our withdrawals. We're going to live a really happy and great retirement. We've got $2 million that are going to pay out to the estate at death. Unfortunately, under scenario one, we also have this unknown possibility that we need to pay for long-term care. So we listed $500K to $1 million as the potential cost. Let's say one needed care, $500,000, could be $1 million for one if it's a longer duration. We don't know what that will do to deplete the nest egg. But when we look at purchasing a long-term care policy, again, what I'm going to call the lose-lose scenario is if we experience no long-term care event, we've now lost to the scenario where we did nothing. If we do experience a long-term care event, we may potentially beat the long-term care event scenario and the no planning scenario, but we also still know we are not going to achieve the current scenario. That's where I think this really comes into play, again, for clients that are inclined to pass assets on to the next generation. In this case, no long-term care event. Remember, we've got a cost of the premium, but we've got this $1 million death benefit plugged into planning software. This is going to project a larger estate than the $2 million. If we do experience a long-term care event, again, it might not cover 100% of it. We've got some cost to the policy, but we're losing by significantly less than either of the other two scenarios. So again, these are summary pieces. We can kind of take you through in a one-on-one webinar and walk through, the details. How do we come to these projections? Or we can work with you on any individual clients using your planning software to help you model these scenarios out. But I think keeping this conversation very high level and very simple before diving into the details is what helps clients understand that you are really understanding what they're trying to achieve and you're understanding how to help them solve problems. So how does core income help here? Hopefully a lot of you on this call have worked with us in the past, but really I kind of want to detail core can help with everything from start to finish. We want to be your back office for any of these types of scenarios. So to hit on underwriting, we have a team of people here along with some outside experts that can help you underwrite a case from start to finish. So I've got kind of a couple different levels listed here. A quick quote. So for any of your individuals out there, any size case, this could be somebody doing a small case, we can reach out to up to 30 carriers at once with a simple medical profile. You don't need to do an application. This is just you calling us and sharing information about your client. And we can find out from all 30 of those carriers where they would rate that client based on the health information we provided. Obviously, the more information we can provide, the more accurate those ratings are. But before taking your client down the path of underwriting, down the path of medical records, we can get this analysis to find out exactly where we think they would be rated. We can do a cost-benefit analysis at that point based on what the policies would be priced. And we can figure out if it's a path we want to go down with that client. The second here is, maybe many of you don't know, we do full informal underwriting here at Core Income. So we've got a great team in here headed by Grace. Grace has done a fantastic job of building out our in-house underwriting process. So what we can do there is before, again, taking an application, before even your client going to get a medical exam, we can go out and gather that client's medical records. This is one HIPAA form. We can look at the exact same information the insurance company looks at. So if you're ever submitted an insurance application to an insurance company, sometimes they come back and say, hey, we noticed your client's taking this medication, or we noticed your client has this doctor's appointment schedule that maybe your client didn't talk to you about. They are using background databases, the MIB, LexisNexis. We have access to those exact same platforms. So again, without the client jumping through hoops, We can pull up their profile. We can build a medical file. At the end of that process, we should have about 95% confidence as to what the client will receive as far as a rating from the insurance company. That's when we'll move to the exam and an application. So we can do all of that in-house here for multiple purposes. One, we want to make this a much smoother event for your client. Two, we want you and your client to know in advance what the cost, or at least to the greatest level of certainty, what the cost of some of these solutions are. And then three, we want to be able to shop around to different insurance companies. We don't want to submit to one insurance company and be stuck with that one. So again, when you're thinking of underwriting, especially as you look at the 70-year-old client across your desk, understand most 70-year-olds do have some health issues. They could be taking medications. They could have certain histories of cancer, and we can still get many of those clients approved or even get them a favorable rating. I think the most important piece here is your best underwriting advice is just a phone call away. So we'll put the number on the end here, whether you're working with us already or not, or contracted with us already or not. I would encourage you to reach out on any cases you're working on and find out just what level of support we can give you as it relates to life insurance, especially with those older clients that you may be a little weary of. So call in, ask for anybody on our life insurance team. If you're already working with Joe or Tyler or Grace, certainly call in and work with them. But the second piece here, we kept this webinar pretty high level because the goal was to help you identify these case design or these case opportunities. We have a very high level of advanced support here. Some of that is in-house. Some of that is with experts we've contracted with. So I think you'll experience with your team at Core, whether it's us handling everything from start to finish or bringing in experts. I have Rob Wellendorf listed here. Rob is one of the foremost estate planning gurus I know. If you have a tricky estate, if you have clients that own multiple businesses, I would really encourage you to reach out to us and we can get Rob on the case with you. Phil Vogel works on much larger cases where we're considering using premium financing. Premium financing can play a role for the ultra high net worth who are looking to save on their exemptions. Really, we can help you handle any case from start to finish, most of which in-house, but always with the utmost of expertise. We really look forward to working with you on some of these cases. I did want to make a quick call out here. One of our favorite events that we put on here is called Insurance Intel. So if you want to go deeper, if you want to develop expertise, if you want to meet everybody in our office that we want to be in your back office, we would invite you to fly out here to Minneapolis on our dime. Everything's covered, and spend just one night and 2 days with us. And really, these events have created an opportunity for us to meet tons of advisors, for the advisors to meet the people in our office. But as you can see, my business partner, Dan, is an actuary, head actuary, kind of weird to have at an insurance distributor. You'll hear for 2 days from Dan on some very advanced in the weeds topics. You'll hear from me on some of these ideas as to how to introduce these concepts. We'd love to have you. You can see the dates right there, but feel free just to call in and talk to your sales consultant or talk to whoever picks up the phone, and we can give you some more details on that trip. We'd love to have you come join us here. Last thing is just, hey, we'd love to consider you or have you consider adding us as an absolute team of pros to your back office. Our commitment to you is we'll spend every day trying to make sure that you look good in front of your clients. We don't want this insurance sale to produce something that messes up the rest of the relationship. Our people here are committed to providing the best service and the best advice. And we'd really love that opportunity to work with everybody on this call. Really appreciate everybody's time today. You'll see the phone number, the info@coreincome.com here if you're looking to just reach out and set something up. Really appreciate you joining. Thank you.